Welcome to the Daily Dope Show. I'm Brando. This is a quick little thing going on that I thought I would relay to my audience. Maybe see if you guys can't help out with the cause here. So what we have is the FDA declares CBD beneficial and wants your input ASAP. Now, hold up. Don't everybody freak out and be like, what? The FDA just said that CBD is beneficial? Doesn't that go against everything they've ever said? Them, the DEA, and all the other alphabets are just like, oh, not medicine. Anything except the roots is considered a drug, and we're going to lock you up and throw away the key. That's still the case. That hasn't changed. So just because the FDA is like, hey, you know what? We've seen some beneficial stuff. It's hard not to, man. I mean, anybody can watch one of those seizure videos where within 20, 30 seconds, the seizures stop. So, did run into another story, just a quick side note before we hammer our way through this. Yeah, they tried to make a synthetic CBD for seizures. Isn't that some bullshit? I mean, nature gave you a perfectly good product that's medicinal. I don't want to go out on a limb and say a fucking cure-all, but it's also something that should almost be like part of your everyday routine just because of the medicinal properties and the antioxidants and all the vitamins and, fatty acids and shit. So there's that. Then there's this. So this is the second trial, not just the first trial, which was also a dismal failure. This is the second trial. And their fake CBD, their synthetic CBD, has not produced any noticeable results, anything more spectacular than the placebo. In the first study case, it was just slightly better than the placebo. But what they found overall was that throughout the time that they did the testing, the frequency of seizures did not go down, and overall, it wasn't a very good stop measure. So yeah, and then the second trial, another complete failure, where nothing observable is worth mentioning, is basically what they say. So Zenerba. Sorry, guys, you can't imitate Mother Nature on this one. I think Mother Nature's revenge is cannabis. And there's a lot to be said about the concerto effect, where it's not just CBD. You need other things. It's a whole plant medicine, and the more you guys are trying to do this synthetic shit and isolate things and be like, oh, this is medicine, but this isn't. And it looks like to me that that's what's going on here. Oh, wait, CBD, we know that does something that we like. So that maybe Big Pharma can get in on it somehow because they're finding out, the synthetic CBD, it's just not working right. And Big Pharma's not going to be able to make their paycheck if they can't, access real CBD. So plant-derived CBD is what they're talking about, cannabidiol. And it's not just CBD. There's a whole list of drugs that we'll get into later that they're talking about here. And what they want is comments, but let me just go ahead and read it, and I'll talk about it. So, the United Nations is trying to figure out how to create cannabidiol, CBD, a non-psychoactive, not how to create it, but how to categorize it, a non-psychoactive and medically beneficial cannabinoid contained in cannabis. And UN officials, through the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, are asking for your help. FDA officials put out a call for comments in this morning's Federal Register seeking information about CBD and how the UN's World Health Organization, or WHO, should designate it under the 1971 Convention on Psychotropic Substances, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, is what sets up the international scheduling of drugs. And then member states just copy that, basically. Sometimes they reword it, but it's basically the same. If they said CBD would be bumped down to Schedule 2, 3, or 4, then all the member states would probably do the same thing. So in doing so, the FDA acknowledges the beneficial effects of CBD shown in patients with neurological disorders. All of those who have information on or experience with the use of CBD as a healing substance are encouraged to comment at this federal website. And I'm going to go ahead and include some links in the description. One of them will be that comments page and the page I'm about to review about it. September 13th is the deadline for public comment, and no input will be considered after that date. CBD is one of 17 substances currently under scheduling review by WHO. This process affects only the WHO and United Nations. It does not directly deal with the status of CBD under the Federal Controlled Substances Act, but it could have an indirect effect by influencing the outcome of the conflict over the federal categorization of cannabidiol. FDA Deputy Commissioner Anna K. Abram, who sent out the notice this morning, acknowledged that, quote, CBD has been shown to be beneficial in experimental models of several neurological disorders, including those of seizure and epilepsy. Thank you for confirming that, Anna K. Abram. That puts the FDA at odds with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, which last year attempted to declare CBD as a Schedule 1 substance. Schedule 1 drugs, by definition, have no currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States. And let's not forget, lest we forget, the CBD or the DEA considers every part of the plant marijuana, which is in their book more illegal and more, there's more reason to go after it than any other drug and all this other shit. So the other drug under consideration by UN includes 6 types of synthetic opioid fentanyl, 5 synthetic cannabinoid agonists. Why do they even do this? Why do they even suggest that fake marijuana, otherwise known as K2 or spice, has anything to do with cannabinoids? Do they? Do they have anything to do with real cannabinoids? First of all, if they're made in a fucking lab, no, they don't. I don't care what you say about chemical composition and what the molecules look like and all that good shit. That's fun, to put different compounds together and make different things. But if you're not growing organically, organic chemistry stops there, don't it? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to split a cannabis molecule into some, things that you're going to market as, well, this will get you this part of the buzz, because I know how they do it with opioids. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit out of my league here. Don't want to go overboard with that. So another one that they're looking into is the ketamine, which there's a whole nother piece down here about ketamine, and I'm not going to read that, but basically they're looking into it because it quite possibly could help in treating depression, quite frankly. And I heard there was already studies that were done about using ketamine on depression and as well as alcoholism and a couple of other psychological problems that have never really had good solutions in medicine, to be honest. So let's look into this a little bit farther. Here's what regulations.gov, the FDA's front page for comments, has to say about this. And now here you can actually see that they have tabulated up that they have 630 or 63 comments, 763 comments currently. And I just refreshed it just to make sure. Don't tell me I lost my highlights. Ooh. Let's try that again. It's possible. All right. Well, to be honest, I think almost this whole thing was highlighted. So I'm going to try to buzz through this real quick because I didn't really want to make this a long clip, but a lot of this needs to be read because you know what? You might decide to not make a comment, or maybe you should make a comment. If you have any experience with CBD, generally speaking, these kind of comments are open for anybody in the public, so you don't have to be some kind of specialist or, practitioner or, patient yourself. You just have to know somebody and see the efficacy with that patient. Or in general, just if you have a good story about CBD, this is a pretty wide open ask. They want basically anybody that has any experience that can say anything about it. That's not to say that if you're somebody out there that just wants to write fake comments and talk about some negative aspects of CBD, which I have no idea what that would even be, go ahead. Go for it. The FDA is requesting interested persons to submit comments concerning abuse potential, actual abuse, medical usefulness, trafficking, and impact of scheduling changes on availability for medical use of 17 drug substances. Now, that's a pretty cool list, but you got to look at it like this. All right, so if you're talking about CBD specifically, you can cross out the abuse potential, or you can mention it. You can say, you know what? There is no abuse potential. There's zero, because it doesn't get you high. CBD has nothing in it that gets you high. It doesn't make you feel like anything that THC makes you feel like. So just that alone makes it so, okay, it's really hard to abuse. Another plus side on the abuse potential is that there's no limit on how much CBD you can ingest. Like, it's not toxic. So you can do a whole spoonful of it, a ton of it if you need to. And that's not abusing it because it doesn't have any adverse side effects. So actual abuse, you can skip that, because abuse potential is a very important one to mention because it doesn't have any abuse potential. Medical usefulness. CBD has so many uses, I can't even begin to list them. So I'm sure that if you have experience with CBD, you can probably list a couple. And don't be shy. Tell them whatever, don't get personal if you don't want to, but don't be shy. Tell them everything. To me, it's turned my life around, I barely get any CBD. We've just increased the CBD from almost 0 to a little over 2%, 3% at times, and that's good. Trafficking, I don't know much about that, but what I've seen is that the DEA has been going after people for shipping CBD from state to state. There was a company out of Alaska that got in trouble for it, and another company out of, I believe it was South Dakota or Wyoming, one of those. I think it was Wyoming. So that could stop. If you scheduled it down, that would take it out of the DEA's hand, at least for people that were able to now sell it between states. Because if it's on Schedule 1, then there's just like no quarter from the DEA at all. So the impact of scheduling changes on availability for medical use. Well, that would be astronomical, because if you scheduled it down and allowed it to be mass produced, they would lower the price a lot, because right now companies are gouging that shit. And this is life-saving medicine, and a lot of times for children and some of the most vulnerable people among us, like cancer patients. So, come on, please, have a heart, guys. Anyway, these comments will be considered in preparing a response from the United States to the World Health Organization. This is some pretty boring stuff, guys, but trust me, you're going to need to know about what this is about. Regarding the abuse, liability, and diversion of these drugs, World Health Organization will use this information to consider whether to recommend that certain international restrictions be placed on these drugs. This notice requesting comments is required by the Controlled Substance Act. This needs to be submitted, written or electronic, by September 13, 2017. Here's some addresses for you to know about. Now, I'm going to leave this address here for this page in the comments section, and there's a little button right here. And when you hit that, it takes you to this page where you can do your comment. And when you do your comment, there's this weird, just to tell you, like, what are you? If you're none of this, I'm going to go with media for me, I guess. If worse comes to worse, you're an international public citizen, right? Everybody can say they're that. There is no thing for American citizens, so whatever. So okay, back to the the write up. And here, I just went over that. That's how you do your electronic submission. You want to make sure that you don't dox yourself, it says right here. It's your responsibility not to include any confidential information that you or your third party may not wish to be posted, such as medical information, you or anyone else's social security number. In the body of the comments, the information will be posted on regulations.gov. And you can also submit confidential comments. And it tells you how right there. They must be written submissions. Here's how you do the written submissions. And here's where you mail it to in Rockville, Maryland. I will include this address in the thing below too, okay? If I remember. This is a little bit important too. You know what? I'm just going to not do that because I'm going to put the address to this page. And if you're going to do this, you need to go to this page here and at least, there's a couple of things you really need to check into or look at. Or just rewind this video and watch it before you do it because I'm going to tell you, you're going to need to do this. So every time you make a comment or you make a comment, you have to include this docket number. And then for International Drug Scheduling, Convention on Psychotropic Substance, Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, and then there's this list of all the drugs that's in their, list of drugs that they're going to review. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is put cannabidiol. And then after that, request for comments, and that's it. So it's in the quotes, what you see there, and take all those other drugs out of there and just cannabidiol, and that's it. And it tells you again about confidential submissions and whatnot, how to do that. Then you can access this docket to read the background documents or the comments received. Sorry. And then here's the background information on this. Here's the supplementary information. The United States is party to the 1971 Convention on Psychotropic Substances, Psychotropic Convention. I say that is a treasonous act by the U.S. government, and this basically proves that the New World Order has been a thing for a long time. Because this is the fascism that ended up winning out, They tried it with alcohol prohibition. That wasn't working. So this international police force, which is every local police all the way up to federal DEA types, oppressing their people over drugs, over substances that they say are illegal, and furthermore telling people, which drugs they can have when, based on if they go see a doctor, which is a control valve that they own and operate. So, I got some pretty extreme views about this shit here. All right, we're just going to skip my extreme ass views. And we're just going to tell you what they're, trying to tell you here, why this is a thing. I mean, it sounds pretty disgusting to me. And I wasn't really a big fan of the World Health Organization in the first place. Now, you can go down some conspiracy theory rabbit holes on them. I personally just think maybe they're a little bit they have too much control. That's all. And who knows what kind of nefarious shit they're really up to. So if you can prove some stuff to me or show me some stuff, I'd be willing to see it, but I don't really have time. I just know that when I see World Health Organization, I'm like, it's a head scratcher. I don't really have a lot of trust in things like that. So basically what happens is the convention in Article 2 provides that if a party to the convention or the World Health Organization has information about a substance which in its opinion may require international control or change in such control, it shall notify the Secretary General of the United Nations and provide the United Nations Secretary General with information in support of its opinion. And then Section 201 of the Controlled Substances Act, Title 2 of the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970 provides that when WHO notifies the United States under Article 2 of the Psychotropic Convention that it has information that may justify adding a drug or other substances to one of the schedules of the Psychotropic Convention, transferring a drug or substance from one schedule to another, or deleting it from the schedules, the Secretary of State must transmit the notice to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary of HHS must then publish the notice in the Federal Register and provide opportunity for interested persons to submit comments that will be considered by HHS in preparation of the scientific and medical evaluation of the drug or substances. Secretary of HHS received the following notice from WHO, non-relevant text removed. The World Health Organization presents its compliments to member states and associate members and has the pleasure of informing that the 39th Expert Committee on Drug Dependence will meet in Geneva from 6 to 10 November 2017 to review a number of substances with potential for dependence, abuse, and harm to health, and will make recommendations to the UN Secretary General on the need for and level of international control of these substances. At its 126th session in January of 2010, the Executive Board approved the publication Guidance on WHO Review of the Psychoactive Substances for International Control, which requires the secretaries to request relevant information from ministries of health in member states to prepare a report for submission to the ECDD. For this purpose, a questionnaire was designed to gather information on legitimate use, harmful use, statutes of national control, and potential impact on international control for each substance under evaluation. Member states are invited to collaborate, as in the past, in this process by providing pertinent information as requested in the questionnaire and concerning substances under review. That was a mouthful. To review, basically, somebody went to them and said, look, we got this list of drugs we want to do different things with, and then they got to take it to all the people like in our government and sign off on it. And before they can send it off to WHO, they need comments from you. So that's basically a quick summary so far. It would be appreciated if a person from the Ministry of Health could be designated as a focal point responsible for coordinating and answering the questionnaire. Non-relevant information from letter not shown. See letter for text shown here. Designated focal point, and only this person should access the complete and complete the questionnaires. And here's the list. We're going to get into the list here in a second. Once again, replies to the questionnaire must reach the secretariat secretarial by 30 September 2017 in order to facilitate. That's not your deadline, though. I think your deadline was like September 12th or something. 13th. So you got to get it to them so they can get it to WHO. The National Authority under International Drug Control treaties. If you know anything about treaties, everything is a treaty. Like when it comes to government agreements or things that change laws, whether it be on a local level or an international level, all the pieces of paper that we're talking about in that is all treaties. And generally speaking, treaties are also agreements. Now, in this case, what it is you have this overall world governing body that after they hear a bunch of people tell them something, they make a decision and then they sign a treaty. But the treaty is basically them saying what their decision is, and it doesn't have to line up with what the member states wanted. It could be like, you know what, I heard what you guys said, sorry, fuck off. And in that case, which is how it's gone down since 1970, or even before that, I think the first one was in 1963. But ever since these treaties have been made in the drug conventions, they have never favored any kind of reversal, or nothing's ever went nothing but more scheduling and more penalties and more making drugs illegal. There was even a time when they considered making just straight up all herbs, illegal, whatever the fuck that means. So yeah, this shit's never gone our way, and to think that it's gonna now is a little bit, optimistic. But I don't see why they would put this list together the way it did, unless everybody in the world is starting to really like, whoa, wait a minute, we fucking did this wrong. For some reason, we let corporations run rampant and jam all this like opioid shit down our throats while banning all the good medicines. Is this really happening? Well, we're about to find out. So anyway, member states are also encouraged to provide any additional relevant information, unpublished or published, that is available on these substances to blah, 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 blah. This information will be an invaluable contribution to the ECDD, and all submissions will be treated as confidential. Now, it might be a good idea to do that, because the ECDD sounds to me like they don't know anything, and they're not trying to actually go out there and study. They're called the Expert Committee on Drug Dependence. You know who's been telling them what they want to hear for the last, 50, 60 years? Big Pharma. Big Pharma's been like, yeah, marijuana, bad. That shit's got to stay illegal till the fucking sun burns out. So, alright, now we're finally here. Here's what they're looking at. Now, the list is stacked deep as hell with all of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have ocfentanyl, phenylfentanyl, acryloyl fentanyl, acryloyal, I don't know, carfentanyl, you might have heard of that. 4-fluoral isobutyrafentanyl and tetrahydrofuranfentanyl, fentanyl. Some of them have fancy names. But what these are is they're all synthetic copies of fentanyl, which is already a synthetic copy of something, morphine, I believe. So, this is fucking ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. This is what happened when you let this cat out of the bag. So when people talk about, keeping marijuana illegal, the prohibitionists, the Kevin Sabats and shit like that of the world, they're like, yeah, man, we don't want to let another cat out of the bag. Like, what does that even mean? With this shit here, though, it's like the cat's already out of the bag, and more cats are coming out of the bag every day. They're coming up with new fucking ways to make this fentanyl shit all the time. And let's just look at a couple of them. Some of them purport to be about as potent, if not a little more potent, than regular fentanyl, which is already like 50 times more potent than morphine. And then you have this carfentanyl shit, known as 4-carbomethyloxyfentanyl. It's an extremely potent synthetic opioid that is similar in structure to and approximately 100 times more potent than fentanyl. What? This is something like if you get a tiny, like, little drop a powder of it on your fucking skin and you don't notice it before your skin absorbs it, you probably will die. It's pretty much the strongest thing on the planet, man. I mean, as far as something that could kill you, it's almost as deadly as anything that's considered a poison that could kill you. All that being said, it's not approved for human use. It is not okayed on any level for anything. And, you know, they don't really talk about it, but they don't really know if someone died from that or just regular fentanyl. So we don't know how prevalent that shit actually is out there. Another thing going on is this, some kind of a meth right here. 4-fluoroamphetamine or 4-FA, psychoactive substance and of the phenethylamine and substituted amphetamine chemical classes and produces stimulant effect. So it's another kind of crystal meth or some kind of meth or just some kind of amphetamine. And then what we have is, ta-da, synthetic cannabinoids. A whole gang of them. There's another one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of spice or whatever the fuck. All of these have these side effects that sound quite crazy. So let's just look at one. ABCHMINACA is a clandestinely produced synthetic cannabinoid agonist that is approximately 16 times more potent than delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. You know why? Because it's just, THC can't kill you for one, so it's not toxic. And it doesn't, and I don't know what they're even talking about more potent. What do you mean potent on this note? I mean, I can see how you can measure it with opioids because it actually slows your respiratory system down and it creates like blood pressure, drop in heart rates and shit. Like there's things you can measure. This just like doesn't make any fucking sense. But anyway, adverse effects produced by cannabinoid agonists include whatever that is: agitation, hallucination, chest pain, seizure, anxiety, acute psychosis, and death. So right there, that tells me that this thing's made in a lab. They already said that. And it can kill you. So how is this a fucking cannabinoid? Why do you call it a synthetic cannabinoid? Is that even right? Is this whatever the fuck this thing here is? That I'm guessing that's something to do with the chemical composition or something. Whatever. It has been detected in illicit synthetic cannabinoid substances and found in cases of overdose in hospitalizations. It has not been pre-reviewed or critically reviewed by the WHO. On January 27, 2017, the DEA published a notice of proposed rule making to permanently control this substance as a Schedule 1 substance under the CSA. Now, all that means is that these cannabinoids, they aren't cannabinoids. They're not. They're just using that word to distort public record keeping, I guess. Let's be clear, guys. Whenever you're reading about this drug driving or this shit where people are in the hospital because they overdosed on marijuana, I've seen where they are actually using fucking spice and K12 or whatever that shit's called, like the fake shit, fake weed. They're just saying, oh, them are cannabinoids, so we can chalk that up as another person that ended up in the ER or at CDC because of fucking cannabis. So this is it's just bad that they're trying to ban them all. In case you haven't figured it out, with all those fake fentanyls and all this fake weed, they're trying to ban that fake shit. They're mad because somebody else can go in a lab and make something. And I know there's people out there that are all about these research chemicals, and they probably think I'm just talking out of my ass, and I'm a dickhead for throwing it all under the bus like, fuck this shit, it's garbage. But you know what? I'm just going to do that. Fuck that shit, it's garbage. The fake shit, the fake weed, the fucking fentanyl, the real fentanyl, any kind of opioids, any kind of whatever. What else do they got? So they got another drug that's in the benzodiazepine class. Otherwise, like you've seen olazapam, or I think maybe Xanax. Everybody knows Xanax. This is one of those, but apparently this thing is not approved for medical use or controlled in the United States. So naturally, they want to fucking get that on CSA. Then you have this anticonvulsant type drug. I think this is Neurontin, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they've been finding that people are smashing this shit with opioids to get a better opioid buzz or some shit. But really, that's just, it's not good for some reason. I don't know. But they're being identified when they find someone that's dead on pretty much every other pill that can kill you. Somehow now they have that in there. Now, tramadol, I guess they're kicking this back for another review. Last time they had a review, they said, tramadol's not that big of a deal. We'll leave it where it is. So maybe they're trying to get tramadol bumped up in the CSA a little. Who knows what they're trying to do with tramadol. Tramadol's garbage, by the way, if anybody's ever had any experience with that shit. And then cannabidiol, our favorite. CBD is one of the active cannabinoids identified in cannabis. CBD has been shown to be beneficial in experimental models of several neurological disorders, including those of seizures and epilepsy. In the United States, CBD-containing products are in human clinical testing in 3 therapeutic areas. But no such products are approved by the FDA for marketing for medical purposes in the United States. CBD is a Schedule I controlled substance under the CSA. At the 37th 2015 meeting of the ECDD, the committee requested that the Secretariat prepare relevant documentation to conduct pre-reviews for several substances, including CBD. And last but not least, ketamine, classified as a rapid-acting general anesthetic agent used for short diagnostic and surgical procedures that do not require skeletal muscle relaxation. It is marketed in the United States as a solution for injection. Ketamine is controlled under Schedule III of the CSA in the United States. It is not controlled internationally under the Convention on Psychotropic Substances or the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. The ECDD reviewed ketamine in its 34th in 2006, 35th, 2012, and 36th in 2014 meetings. On March 13th, 2015, the Commission on Narcotics Drugs, the CND, decided by consensus to postpone the consideration of the proposal concerning the recommendation to place ketamine in Schedule IV of the Psychotropic Convention. The CND requested additional information from the WHO. The ECDD reviewed updated information in its 37th 2015 meeting and found no reason to recommend the new pre-review or critical review of ketamine that could potentially change its standing 2014 recommendation that ketamine should not be placed under international control. And I think this is going to open the door for it to be researched more, maybe. I'm not sure. We know they're already researching it, so I don't know what they would need to do to research it more. It's on Schedule 3 in the United States, so maybe they're talking about straight up prescribing it in whatever. Any comments received will be considered by HHS when it prepares a scientific medical evaluation of these drug substances. HHS will forward a scientific and medical evaluation of these drug substances to WHO through the Secretary of State for WHO's consideration in deciding whether to recommend international control, decontrol of any of these drug substances. Such control could limit, among other things, the manufacture and distribution, import, export of these drug substances and could impose certain record-keeping requirements on them. Although the FDA is, through this notice, requesting comments from interested persons, which will be considered by HHS when it prepares the evaluation of these drug substances, HHS will not make any recommendations to WHO regarding whether any of these drugs should be subjected to international controls. Instead, HHS will defer such consideration until WHO has made official recommendations to the Commission on Narcotic Drugs, which are expected to be made in early 2018. Any HHS position regarding international control of these drug substances will be preceded by another Federal Register notice soliciting public comments as required by Section 201D2B of the CSA. And there you have it. That's pretty much it. I'm going to put the links in the description, and I highly encourage anybody to go ahead and make that submission.